Hi, I'm Adam Shiva, and in this video I'm going to talk about the dynamic of relationship where we seem to touch on each other's negative expectations for the world and some core trauma from one's childhood that is getting brought up to be worked through. So, in my understanding, each of us has a pattern of expectation from the world that we're going to be imposed on and pushed in this way that doesn't feel very good for us. And in that expectation, there's also a consistent emotional feeling dynamic. And that is an emotional negative imprint that we've maybe felt the most times of any familiar negative feeling that's kind of the most core to our experience. For me, the negative feeling has to do with one of shame for what I'm like, my wildness, and also for that I haven't done enough. And the story and expectation that goes along with it is that I need to give 150% to be acceptable. And that if I go for an endurance 85% exertion to be able to maintain my ability to keep going, then I won't be doing a good enough job to be loved and accepted. Where does that come from? In my understanding, that comes from a pain that we've all experienced within childhood. Now, I think it's important to delineate between trauma and abuse. Abuse is something that just happens to some people, where the way they were treated was cruel and inappropriate. Whereas, I think for almost all of us, we have a certain amount of trauma, a part of our experience in which there's deep pain within us. And that pain comes from that maybe we had a need and it wasn't attended to in the proper timing by our parents. And that isn't an indictment of the job our parents did in raising us, as those needs are so numerous and the opportunities to be deeply let down in a way that really hurts us comes all the time. I think that my negative imprint came from a process where I was being enculturated to show up with a dogged dedication and to really be able to see something through. There's so much that I've created and that I'm grateful for in my life that directly comes from that. And also, as I integrate to feel calm in my body and accepted and loved for who I am, I have to do some healing and integration of that dynamic. And so it isn't to say that having those dynamics are bad, because often they make something beautiful about us to have that as part of ourselves. Yet they need to be tended. In my understanding, having those dynamics come up in relationship is actually a natural and healthy process. Though there might be many people who we find attractive and who have enough shared interest with us that they could be good matches for partners, what really draws us is something that feels like home, that feels like, it's like I've always known you. And many people say that that actually is just because their challenge, damage, way of being hurtful and being prone to hurt exactly fits ours. That we're going to trigger their trauma and they're going to trigger our trauma. And that actually, in my understanding, working through that is actually an essential way that relationship is this alchemical container for our maturing and personal growth. And so, though we could avoid that, for instance, a teacher I appreciate says that we should ask our friends to select our partners because they won't pick one that aligns with our trauma. But I think that those parts of us go unintegrated, and the much more mature thing to do is to face those challenging dynamics and try to just work on making it a little bit better each time. How do we show up more integrated, more self-caring, less blaming others in the way we deal with that trigger each time? For me, it's often like, okay, I'm getting really I'm pushing myself and I'm kind of numbing out. But also, if I am neglecting you to tend myself, it won't feel nourishing to me at all. Okay, is there one thing I could do for you so that I could step away, do things for myself, become centered, and then show up for you in a way that is feeling, listening, calm, centered? And so I think that making a little step, a more mature way of dealing with this trigger each time, is a pathway by which relationship, and particularly one where we're committed to each other's growth, can be a pathway towards deeper integration and becoming our full, authentic self, not just our picked up habits from our past. I hope this is helpful to you. I'd love it if you shared it with someone you know, and please subscribe below. Thank you so much for listening to me, and I hope you have a great day.